June 20. So, as you guys know, my marker's been really crappy recently. So I got the premium shit right here. It's an unboxing. Anyways, let's go on to the next story. This story is called Convention Parchment. So this was actually the event that I spoke about in this convention, the previous story. This was the actual event that caused that. Like, this is the prequel to that one. So basically, we had our chef was in charge of the entree course, and there was probably like 6 chefs over there that had to do 6 courses. So like salad, appetizer, fish, dessert, that type of stuff. Anyways, our chef was doing the dessert course. Not dessert. The beef course. So we did short rib, potato, au gratin, and then vegetable garnish and whatever. And okay, so this is specifically about the potato. So potato au gratin is when you layer potatoes and you do cream and cheese and that kind of stuff. And then you do that stuff, and then you layer it into a pan, you press it down, you bake it, and then after it comes out, you cut it, right? So we're prepping this for we're prepping for this event for about a week or so, because it takes a week to prep this kind of stuff. So me, one other person, the chef, the 3 of us prepped 1,000 portions in a week. And well, I'll just throw this in now. We're supposed to get paid decently for this, and we got paid, I think I got paid $300 for probably like 12 hours times that, probably 100 hours. I got paid like $300. So always faking us out, telling us we're gonna get paid, and then we don't get paid, or we get paid very little. Anyways, so for the potato au gratin, I prepped all of it, and then the chef said, I want parchment paper like perfect squares about this big. So when we bake it, because there's gonna be like 15 lines with like 10 people on it putting the food out, because all the food has to go at one time for like 1,000 people. So he said, I want the parchment to be this perfect square, so we can put the portion on there, and then whoever the person is will pick it up, slide it off, right? So I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds fine. I mean, not that what I say matters, but I was like, yeah, okay, I understand why I'm doing these parchment squares. And then essentially I did the math. I was like, okay, if I take a big piece of parchment, I fold it in half, I fold it in half, I fold that in half, I fold it in half, each sheet will produce 32 squares, and I have to cut them, right? So you fold them, you crease it, you take your knife, you go and then it'll cut the parchment in half. So I think it was 30. So 32 or 36, whatever it is. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Yeah, 32 out of one sheet. So I had to cut like 30, 33 or whatever pieces of parchment. So I had to fold all of them in half, cut, then take all that big stack, fold it in half, cut, half, cut, half, cut. So the amount of pieces I started with kept getting exponentially more, because even though you start with 30 something sheets in the beginning, once you fold in half and cut it, then you have 60, and then it turns into 120, then it turns into 240, and then from 240 it turns into 480, and then that's when you cut it down to 1,000 something little squares. And keep in mind, he was yelling at us this whole time, like, we gotta get this shit done and that kind of stuff. And like, so we're in a rush, and I start folding and cutting, because it's like I did the potato part already. I start folding and cutting, and then I have this stack and then I was just gonna like fold multiple sheets and cut multiple at once. And he's like, no, you have to fold one sheet at a time and cut one sheet at a time. And I was like, it's gonna take really long. You know that, right? Because like on the very last cut, if I'm trying to get 1,000 sheets, that means I had half of that folded, which is 500. And to get to that 500, I had to do half of that, which was 250. So it kept like the curve of going from 30 sheets to 1,000 sheets. That's a lot of folding and cutting. So he was like, blah, 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 blah. Just fucking do it, that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, fine. So for like 2 days straight, I was folding pieces in half, crimping it really nice, slicing one sheet at a time. I'll do the whole stack. So the half sheet pan or the full sheet pan is like this big, and I did it in half. So this I had 30, and then I had 60 this size, and then that turned into 120 this size, and then 240 this size, and then 240, 480, and then one more time, 480, 900. But you get the point. I did one more sheet because I had to hit 1,000 or something, and I ended up with that. And then from there, it wasn't a perfect square. It was like a rectangle. So I had to fold the end over and then cut the end off to make it a perfect. It was either that or it was a rectangle. But anyways, you can see how long it would take to fold things in half and slice them one at a time. I remember, so the whole time he's yelling at me because I'm taking too long to do this stupid thing that he told me to do. And I told it, like, he was like, what the fuck's taking so long? And I was just like, chef, you told me to do this. This takes a long time to do it one at a time. Because you can imagine taking a piece of paper, fold, crimp, pick up my knife, rotate the paper, put the knife in, slice it. That's one cut. I had to do over 1,000 cuts. I think I did the math. It was like 1,500 to 2,000 cuts. So anyways, he's yelling at me, and I'm like, you told me to do this? And so yeah, I spent like 2 days folding and cutting paper in half. And then the day of the event comes, and then he said to me and the other guy, you guys better yell at all of them or I'm gonna yell at you. So I think, no, there wasn't 15 lines. There was 8 lines, because I remember that chef was watching over 3 lines, I was watching over 3 lines, and then the other guy was watching over 2 lines. And our job was to basically make sure all of these random 100-something line cooks that work for other restaurants and the convention center execute the dish that he put up properly. And we did the event, it went fine and whatever, and some other chefs made some mistakes, like dried fish and whatever, but that's whatever. It's not our prerogative. Anyways, all that work I did to make those perfect parchments that look really nice and straight, because that's like a flex apparently. Oh, we cut perfect squares and that type of stuff. On a sheet pan, all the potatoes were lined up perfectly. So like if it's as if you had a piece of parchment on there, and then every square was touching each other next to it perfectly. It was like seamless, but all the pieces were cut. And the people who were in charge of moving the potato onto the plate, because it was like a conveyor belt. You put your thing on it, you slide it over. You put your thing on it, you slide it over, right? So the conveyor belt. The person who was in charge of putting the potato on, they just had a glove on and they just went like that, and they picked up the potato and they put it on the plate. They didn't do any of this like Oh, let me pick it up with the parchment gently, and then let me slide the parchment off and like do that thing. Nobody did that. If anything, by cutting all those parchments, we made it harder for them, because if they were capable of just picking it up and putting it down, then they could just do that, right? But because the parchments were small, they were sticking to the potato, so they had to pinch the parchment down, pick up the potato, put it down. So I spent 2.5 days making it harder for everyone because that chef said so. And yeah, I got yelled at for 2.5 days for taking too long, doing something that this chef told me to do, which in the end caused more problems than it helped. So that's that story. I used my new pen. First time. Oh, look at that. Look at that premium blackness. How much time we got left? Oh, finished.